Alright guys, subscribe back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And after the recent confirmation that this indeed will be Scump's last season competing in professional Call of Duty, he has urged Dashy to uninstall Valorant and make sure he gives his all to the competition this season. Scump saying that Tarkov is gone off his PC, he wants Dashy to do the same for Valorant to ensure that he gets the best possible service for his final season competing. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Really helps out the channel. Thanks very much indeed for doing that one. Firstly, this from Clay. We saw, of course, earlier today that Clay and Co had a rather good time in that flank $30,000 tournament, and already Clay's got some other clips going on here. $800 Chal, 1 versus 4 he's got going on right here, trying to defend the bomb sites over here on Hotel. Hopefully this map actually is still viable, and all the drama about whether it's actually going to be playable or not, it's one of the best ones. And honestly, the maps to look at in this game aren't as bad as I expected them to be after Modern Warfare 2019. Lots of talk as well on GAs. I wanted to mention a few things here because Slasher a few days ago said, I think Saint said here that ARs are blessed, and then Slasher's saying, look, try and jump in a hill with the Scar and still see if you think the same thing. But as Slasher goes on to say, it's crazy how we can legit make anything work. The flank tournament was entertaining all day long. Imagine what COD could be if it got the proper support. Pred says ARs stay blessed, and then Slasher says, since it's an AR, it'll be GA'd fast, don't you worry. You subs always get your way. That's why I'm already using the Scar. So there's questions I think about the AUG right now, whether that should be allowed or not, because it turns out the AUG's actually pretty good. Funny really, because the pros gravitated towards the Scar early on, the TAQ, the TAC, whatever, and it turns out that statistically, it's one of the weaker ARs in the game. And honestly, I think that makes the game much better to watch, to be honest, and that's been the key talking point lately. Why don't we use the weaker weapons such that the game's actually, the time to kill is a bit more reasonable than it could be, and the pros are already starting to do that unintentionally. So I wonder if there is some intention there, we actually could get a meta where the weaker weapons are preferred. Even Clayster, of all people, Clayster has never been one to really support GAs in general. He prefers to play the game out of the box, as he says. But he reckons that the AUG and Fennec, which is basically the Vector, they need to go. So get the AUG and Fennec out ASAP. And as Slasher says, I mean, I've always been a believer in using weaker guns. Now I'm not the one leading the charge, so it'll probably be accepted. Can we also, please, I'm begging, make a flex player an actual flex again, not a second AR, usually map reliant, but yeah, he reckons certain maps, it could be viable. So definitely intrigued your thoughts on this in the comments below. What do you think about the meta? Because already the pros seem to be gravitating towards, and Slasher seems to think it will happen, that the weaker weapons will be preferred. There's also other talking points, for example, like, as Donny Temp here says, I think they're just practicing up against Slasher, and I mean, look at this right here with the M4, with certain grips and whatever, you can get, I mean, look at this hipfire connection that he gets right here on this M4. So yeah, obviously when you jump and stuff, you get much less ADS speed, it's like 3 times slower, so classic Infinity Wars, but yeah, Merc M4 grip, CS barrel cheese, it's got to go. So the pros already deciding what to GA, but I do think it's a rather exciting possibility that potentially we'll get some weaker guns used this year. So there's two possibilities. Either you up the health to 130 HP, or you use the weaker guns, or you do both, right? Maybe both of those are viable options. Scump has kind of said that he doesn't reckon the pros will want to do this, but look, we're already seeing, right, that pros are already starting to use the Scar that's not the most powerful weapon anyway. So I think for a few different reasons, it might make sense for the pros to actually do this year, and there might be some support for it. I think some of the pros will disagree, but look, if that just becomes the meta and what people prefer to use, then that's what's going to happen, and we might get rid of some of these more OP weapons. Now, the concern about this, of course, is with regard to snipers, because if you do put the health to 130, which you can do in the settings, the ideal world would be that we can have the health a little bit higher, but then, we talk to the developers and they say, okay, we'll increase the sniper kind of, multipliers on the chest and up or whatever, so you can still get a one-shot kill, but that's probably not going to happen. The reality is that if you up the health, you can't get a one-shot with the sniper. You might be able to get a one-shot headshot with the sniper, but at that point, it probably isn't viable anymore. So there's a trade-off there. What would you guys prefer to see? Either 130 health and more reasonable time to kill, but what that means is there's probably going to be no snipers in play, or would you prefer 100 health but still have snipers in Surge? I think that's kind of the trade-off that's being discussed right now, and maybe the pros will decide to do something along these lines over the coming days. And this even was from a couple of days ago now, where, well, Tommy was talking about the STB, which I think is the AUG, and saying that this probably is the best AR in the game. The pros have finally realized it, and hopefully with their experience using the Scar, they'll just get rid of all the stronger ARs in the game, and we get to use the weaker ones. The Scar still kills fast, don't get me wrong, but I think it's more reasonable than some of the other ones. And just as I was mentioning though on the jump ADS, right, as Parasite says here, I agree with Simp, jump ADS in place is longer than just ADS, or at least it feels that way, and Envoy apparently has done the calculations. it's 3 times longer exactly. If you jump and try and aim down sights at the same time, it takes you precisely 3 times longer than normal. The devs hate moving. This is so unnecessary. Well, a lot of pros dissed any type of advanced movement for the last 5 years. So Envoy's got a fair point in a way. Like, is he right about this? Because a lot of pros did say that, look, advanced movement's got to go. At the same time, I don't think they were really talking about the, the advanced movement in terms of just jump shotting. It was more about the slide cancelling, and it was more about movement mechanics that kind of break cameras and stuff like that. It wasn't necessarily against advanced movement. It was against movement that, could be abused to break the cameras of the opponent, not necessarily just jumping around corners and ADSing and bunny hopping and this type of stuff. But look, it's gone. You've got to be more patient with it, and jump ADSing is certainly not as viable as it used to be. This also to note, because people were talking about this on the Reddit yesterday, and I haven't been able to verify if this actually works, but apparently the constant UAV is kind of bugged, and the sweeping UAV is also kind of bugged in the casual game files. You guys know that there's no option at the moment to turn red dots on the minimap on, but you can turn on the UAV to be constant or sweeping or stuff like that. Now, apparently, if you have it on sweeping, it sometimes works like the normal UAV should work because it's a bit broken. The other option is to put constant UAV on and then have everyone run the ghost perk, because if you do that, then you don't appear on the constant UAV, but you only do appear when you shoot your weapon. So apparently this actually works, where if you have the UAV constant on in the settings and then everyone runs the ghost perk, then you actually can effectively bring back the normal minimap in this way. So it's a bit of a workaround, but the pros are used to doing workarounds for years, and if this actually works and is an option, then why not go for it, right? Because it does allow the pros to bring back red dots on the minimap in a normal way with kind of few sacrifices. Before we talk about the Scump thing, quickly wanted to mention this from Gunless, thought was kind of funny really. Challenger plays pro team, what can't I do? This is the screenshot here. Now, of course, this comes from last night, where every pro team was playing in this flank tournament, apart from one team that was Los Angeles Guerrillas. So this can't really be any team other than the Los Angeles Guerrillas. And look at these numbers. Pristini, yeah, okay, is negative, but Gunless is 36 in 14. Ghosties double positive as well, Pentagram positive as well, and these guys on the other side getting absolutely ultrified. So yes, it's just one map, right? Doesn't really mean much at all, but interesting nonetheless if Los Angeles Guerrillas might be having a bit of a struggle bus early on here in this game, because we haven't really seen too much from them so far, and this almost certainly is Los Angeles Guerrillas. There really is no other team that it could possibly be, even as X says in the replies, only one team isn't in the flank invitational, no need to hit it with the whiteouts. See, the thing is, if it's not a pro team that I wanted to troll, etc, etc, but yeah, probably LAG are not having a great time in scrim so far, and Gunless is getting ready to go again, and potentially, he might have tweeted this just because they effectively dropped him last year as an organization, right? So I'm sure to a certain degree he wants to prove it, his dominance to that extent, and might get back in the Pro League, hopefully will at some point or another. Let's talk about the Scump situation then. So last night on the OpTic podcast, they were talking about potential Scump replacements. Who's it going to be? They didn't really give any names, of course. We've theorized who it might be over the past few days, whether they try and break up the Tiny Terrors, bring both of the Tiny Terrors, get Pred in, I think is a likely option as well. But Scump was saying that, like, the season's begun now. He spent a lot of time chilling out playing Tarkov over the past couple of months or so since the season had ended. Dashy's done a similar thing playing Valorant, and Scump has actually pretty much outright said, look, I uninstalled Tarkov to focus on this game. You got to do the same thing for Valorant. And Formal backs him up and says, no, Dashy's not been playing any, but Scump wants it uninstalled. He wants to ensure that the focus is there, and that what Crimsix had to say a few days ago, that his teammates didn't give their all in his final season competing, doesn't happen to Scump as well.
Yeah,
if I'm not Scotty Pip, I'm Rob. I gotta be
Phil Jackson.
Oh, I am Phil Jackson.
Yeah, what?
That's fair.
Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're definitely Dennis.
Yeah, like I need some time off. I need to rip some Val.
I'm going to Vegas.
Listen,
by Vegas, I mean Valorant.
Listen, I undownloaded Tarkov.
I haven't been on.
You got to undownload Val.
What? I haven't been on.
It's only fair.
I haven't been on.
I actually took Tarkov
I'm not
off my
deleting the game.
I can vouch for him that he's not played any Valorant.
I haven't played Valorant.
Good.
Even when he gets here,
It's
like
grind
late
time.
too.
It's grind time, especially your last day. Especially, obviously, everyone saw Crimsix.
If I'm going to be
what
Robin,
Crimsix said.
What?
Everyone saw what Crimsix said when you say it's like, I announced that I was going to retire too, and my team didn't try any harder than that.
He didn't announce it.
No, that's what he made it known to his team.
Well, Seth doing it's a lot different than Crim doing it too.
Yeah, but he was looking.
I mean, if you guys try,
last year,
I mean, that's up, and it's only going to look bad on you guys because I'm out.
So Dashy didn't exactly seem overly keen on this idea, right? Because, look, at the end of the day, usually what will happen is that you'll play scrims and practice and all this stuff all day on Call of Duty, and then, you know, you might want to get off and relax a bit, play some Valorant and whatever. Understandable. But there has been some discussions from aches and the like, of course, as there tends to be, that, you know, maybe Valorant being installed is not a good thing for Dashy, because if he spends too much time on it and could be playing more Call of Duty, that might be preferable. It's always a tough one to say, because you want to have your on time and make sure when you're playing Call of Duty it's focused practice and improvements, and then have your off time. But you know, is more time always better? Probably not if it's not quality practice. But Scump is obviously super committed. He's like, look, Tarkov's taken a lot of my time, there's no way I'm going to play any of it this season, it's getting uninstalled until I retire from the game. Like Dashy, you know, do the same thing, right? Get rid of Valorant, and that's going to be, well, the best possibility for OpTic to succeed this season. I know people have said recently that, and even Rambo made it very clear in the process episodes, that they were going to get rid of Dashy for attitude problems, mostly out of the game. Like it was said explicitly by Rambo in that discussion. We've talked about that topic before, so I didn't think I'd do an entire video on it, but you know, it's been made pretty clear that those were the concerns with Dashy last season, especially after the iLLeY thing happened. I think like Dashy was getting a lot of praise from the team before the iLLeY thing. After the iLLeY thing, it didn't seem to quite be there, the intensity, the commitment, to quite the same extent as it was before. Scump wants to see that again. They say behind the scenes they hashed out all those issues, right, after they decided to run it back again for the final season. It will be for Scump's perspective, but look, obviously they've got to hope that that holds true, and Scump would probably like to see Valorant get uninstalled on Dashy's PC to help that happening. And if he doesn't do it, then it does raise questions about the commitment and all this type of stuff as well, if Dashy's spotted playing Valorant on stream in a month's time. And of course there's going to be the people that say, well look, last season on OpTic, the Dashy attitude question comes up again, and then in previous seasons pretty much every team that he's been on at some point or another has raised those concerns. So, you know, if it's not changed by now, is it ever going to change? These are the questions that are arising. Thankfully, we do get to see some OpTic action over the coming days. I believe that Scump said on stream last night, I tuned in briefly, and he said that scrims will be streamed over the coming days. I think they're going to do maybe 1 or 2 days of streaming their practice, so we get to see something. They're at least playing together now, because they're a little bit behind the pace to some degree, because other teams have been practicing from practically day 1 or day 2 in Hardpoint and getting all the reps in. So OpTic are a little bit behind, but finally are going to get some practice in over the coming days against whoever they shall decide to play. Quick note here on tournaments actually from Hitch, because I know that he's pretty frustrated about the fact that the CDL won't let full teams play together, and Hitch's tournaments often have the content creators and stuff in. It's an interesting discussion really here, because even as Clayster says, he thinks that like retired pros, ex-pros should have their own category. And I don't know what you guys think about this. To me, I think the tournaments are much more entertaining when it's pretty much just pro players. Like pros and ex-pros I think are in a similar category, and Aiden as well is a very solid player. But when you start bringing in, you know, no disrespect to like Joe Woe or like Tim the Tapman or stuff, but when you bring in players like that, it just like downgrades a little bit of the quality of the tournament, in my opinion. The talking points from Hitch though are fair enough, right? Because if you have content creators as kind of a category, then you've got Crimsix and you've got guys like Tupac being considered content creators. And I think even they said in the OpTic podcast that if we were going to enter a tournament as OpTic, they could do, you know, they could have Scump and Dashy, Formal, and then Tupac, right? That could be a team of 4. And it's like, well, that's not really a team of 2 pros, 2 content creators. So that is always a difficult discussion to have. The ideal world is you get the pros involved, all of them as the flank did, but like that's incredibly difficult to execute, and fair play to everyone involved actually making that happen. One final thing to mention before we close out the video here from the Brian stat side: pros that won championships on the most organizations. Crazy numbers here actually. So Clayster could go for, well, extending his record to 7 this upcoming season if Vegas wins something, but he has won championships on Complexity, OpTic, Denial, FaZe, United, and the Dallas Empire. Krim has done it on 5 organizations, Karma's done it on 5, Slasher on 5 as well, that's kind of the joint second place, then Slasher, Attach, and even Scump as well from back in the day, Quantic Leverage, Apex, Team NA, then OpTic, then a Huntsman as well. So, you know, obviously you can consider Scump, you know, OpTic Gaming, OpTic Texas, like all this type of stuff. Maybe that counts differently, but probably is just the same thing, and plenty of players on 4 as well. And Aches actually wants another one added to this, right? Because Aches won for Evil Geniuses in 2014 in Ghost, but he also won for Evil Geniuses in 2018 during the World War II season, where, okay, it's the same org, but it's kind of 2 different ownerships at the time. So, you know, the discussion is raised whether that should be EG1 and EG2, but, you know, not counted on this occasion. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.